How y'all doing? I want to give a shout out to Unsung. They got a new episode tonight. They're gonna do Soul for Real, but I like the way they came out with going back to the '70s and the '80s when they was talking about the music, TV, the whole nine, and the cultural changes. Because it was, especially when you look at the creativity. And I always tell it like it is as far as that go. The '70s was the greatest musical era, especially for black music. I mean, come on now, the emergence of the soundtrack, the artistry, the bands, the groups. You know, I've had so many discussions about debating a top 10 of the singers, male and female, girl groups, male groups, bands. I mean, that's how deep it was. And you can't even songwriters, you just can't do do it enough justice. The '80s was still good. There were certain folks who definitely stood out, and there were certain things, and it was an interesting, like how the late '70s emerged with disco, and then with hip hop coming into folks. Then you get to R&B in the '80s. Then you go from the funk and then the bands and stuff merging to New Jack Swing and hip hop taking over more dominant. But you still saw a balance of shift with songwriters, production teams, and so on. It just it got more cosmopolitan in the '80s and more different vibe. But that '70s vibe, you can't even. We just, I mean, that was an era unbeknownst, and the '90s was the last year for R&B music that I think that really stood out. That you still had some greatness and some people still pushing. We go the last 20 years. I think you've had maybe a handful of people that I would even kind of maybe give a nod to, but compared to what it was back in the day, when you go back and look at that sort of thing, it ain't up for discussion. It ain't even close. It ain't even close. And people tell you otherwise are lying to themselves and they don't want the truth to be told. Because if it wasn't for that, how you think the sampling got to be so big? You know. I would love to wonder, imagine what a lot of these so-called great rapping producers would be like without them 70 samples. I really would like to see what that's like. So, you know, it don't really say much though. But anyway, um, give me your thoughts and your takes about the unsung, exploring the '70s and '80s music and why that is still the breadwinner, and why them eras will never come back, and all the greatness of acts. And there was one consistent with there was a few consistencies in that. You saw the emergence of the Jackson Five, and you saw Michael Jackson. That's interesting because you got to see evolution with an artist. You ain't seeing that no more. But that's another story, another topic. But that just goes to show you how that was a strong year, especially the '70s. And the '80s had some of it, but the '70s, you can't bring that back. I'm out. Catch you next time.